Our next session, Cultivating the Future, exploring urban farming and responsible design through the lens of the Javits Center's rooftop farm. Please welcome our moderator, Joyce Leveston, President and CEO, Javits Center.
Well, hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Joyce Leveston, and I'm the President and CEO of Javits. We are so proud to be the home of the Next Climate campus because sustainability has and always will be a great part of our story. One of the things that we're going to do today is we're going to really talk about what that story looks like. It is the crown jewel of our sustainability initiatives, and it's a 1-acre rooftop farm. If you haven't had the opportunity to see it, please do not leave here today and not see the Javits farm, Steel Farm. Named after my predecessor, Alan Steele. For some of you that don't know, I just started about 6 months ago, so I'm taking a whole lot of credit for something that a whole lot of other people did for us. But I'm super excited about that. It is truly the cornerstone of our sustainability operations and allowing us to kind of create this luxurious farm-to-table experiences right here in Javits. Our steel farm opened in 2021 and is part of our North Javits expansion building, which is also the building you're in today. And today we're going to talk about some of the great minds, or talk with some of the great minds who helped us create this farm into reality. To my left here, we have Ken Sanchez. He is our head of facility operations and sustainability. We have Claire Weisz. She's the founding principal of WXY, the architectural firm that actually designed our farm. And Ben Flanner, our co-founder, and still today farms and manages with Brooklyn Grange, who farms and manages our farm today. So let's jump right into it because we have a lot to discuss in a very short period of time. So Ken, talk to me about what the vision was. Like, how did this vision to put a farm in an urban oasis right here in Javits in the middle of New York, how did that come about?
Well, Joyce, our motivation actually came from Alan Steele, our former CEO at the Javits Center. You know, Alan was very passionate about sustainability. He was very communicative about what his goals would be for the farm at the time. He was very convincing. With Alan, one of the things at the time was that he had this vision, right? And he would see something that most people could not see at the time. And, one of the things that came about as we were thinking, what do we do with a rooftop over an expansion of the Javits Center? Do we expand our successful green roof program? Do we do that? Or do we do something else with it? What we don't want is to fill it up with mechanical equipment, as an example. So he talked about how do we activate that roof? How do we make a visitor unique experience that creates memories? And so, when we were talking about what do we do with the roof, our architects were speaking about why don't we install a blue roof there? And Alan came to me at one time, and I remember this story because he shared with me a photograph of, many years ago, of a family with a small farm in New York City during the migration period, right? And then he said, how can we bring this back? How can we create a farm in the sky, right? And I think that changed everything. We were actually right in the middle of design and development drawings, and we had to go back to our architects, to our general contractors and say, let's pause for a minute. And we have this idea, and I think it'll be unique, and I think it'll be something that not only creates a different experience for the convention center industry and conferences and so on, but also it engages the community. It engages our staff. The idea here is to generate produce, so our culinary group at our kitchens, our partners, can work with kind of homegrown produce and ingredients. And so, you know, he said, we need to do something about this. And how large can it be? And what will it take to do that? So, you know, we had to go back to our architect and say, you know, we need to find a team, a group of experts that can speak about farming, the difficulties of farming in New York City. You know, what would that take? Particularly when you're putting a rooftop on a large building and you have so much transportation around you, right? You have lots of traffic around you. And so we were worried about things like soil becoming airborne, or, you know, what happens during a blizzard, making sure that structure just doesn't fly away, you know. And so that's how it all began. I think that was the cornerstone that Joyce was mentioning.
What a vision and a visionary Alan Steele was. So you said you had to put together a team. And so now today we have Claire here, who is the architect of that team. We had to bring somebody in on a project we had already started. So Claire, talk to me about like the uniqueness of a project like a farm and some of the things, what you thought about when we brought you onto this team to say, how are you going to make this happen?
Well, I want to talk, Joyce, both how special the situation was, but why isn't this a normal thing, right? Okay. To have a rooftop farm on a roof. And a lot of the things, Ken, you spoke about, well, mechanical systems are usually on roofs, and usually they take up most of the roofs. And there aren't easy ways to deliver things like soil or take produce off roofs. And on top of that, people are worried about flying soil and things like that. So what made this so unique is that we, us, TVS, Lend-Lease, Turner, we're all, Moody Nolan, we're already doing something unique, a vertical marshalling yard, an extension to Javits that's vertical. Most convention centers are horizontal. And so having and also doing it in the context, still the largest green roof in the city, never mind all those bees and photovoltaic panels. So the idea of this not being able to be done wasn't there, but there was a lot to put into it. There was the constraints on structure, there was all of the exiting for thousands of people, and there was Alan Steele's idea that this farm should actually feed people at the convention center, and that a pavilion, which he called a kind of greenhouse, in addition to the real greenhouse, needed to almost be a farm-to-table experience. So, you know, reflecting on it, I think there was a lot on our shoulders about how to work with Brooklyn Grange so that we listen to them about what would work, but how to create an experience for everyone. And I have to say, coming to some events there, that you really feel like you're in the farm. And, you know, there's lots to talk about, but I would say I want to leave everyone with a little bit like a kind of adage about roofs. Knowing all that, what I just said about roofs, I think roofs are the kind of facade of the future. We think about just the facades of buildings, but actually, Alan taught me that as this was sort of forming, he looked at another roof right beside Javits that's full of buses, and he goes, well, that could be a farm too.
You know, I'm someone that has managed lots of convention centers. And I was simply just amazed that there could actually be a farm. What was happening in the industry was everybody wanted green roofs. Right? We want a green roof, we want to be sustainable. You know, I'm hearing about programs where they got goats on the roof and whatnot, but not a farm. Like, this is the first opportunity for a convention center to build out a farm on the roof. That really is a unique project, because now you're talking about putting the dirt right on to the building. How many layers? How heavy is that? What does that take? How do we capture the water? How do we make this a true sustainable opportunity? I want to lean a little bit into our farmer here, Ben. Ben, tell me about, like, the motivation behind something like that. When we come to you and you've done other projects around the city, talk to us about what you're doing here at Javits, and then how this has been such an amazing, unique opportunity for you and the team.
Yeah. So we've been putting farms on roofs for over 15 years now, and the majority of and green roofs of all types, and the majority especially at the beginning, the largest farms we'd built had been mostly retrofits on old industrial buildings in Brooklyn and Queens. And so when this came up, it was an exciting opportunity for the first time to be doing the design and to be at the table, helping to design and consult and really work out those details or figure out how to, we didn't have to just work around a massive HVAC that was right in the middle of where we wanted to grow our arugula or something like that. We could really plan those out and the routes and the pathways around the farm and everything. Another thing that was really exciting that hasn't been mentioned yet is the cistern underneath that holds 340,000 gallons of water from all of the drains on the northern expansion of the Javits that goes down there, which we can then pump back up and irrigate. That's something that would be very difficult to retrofit into an old building. And also is a chance to take our soils to the next level, and also the food forest and the orchard was similarly really simple and elegant the way we worked it into the design, but also something that would have been very difficult to kind of retrofit. And that's something we're very proud of, the orchard at that end of it. That's extremely unique to Manhattan and really any other convention hall or building, really, in large cities.
What I would say, this is beyond unique. I know that you put all these farms on roofs, but we're talking about a convention center. We're talking about the mere size of this farm. And then to be able to create a farm-to-table experience allows the convention center now to sell something unique to their customers. These customers are like, not only are you driving sustainability, but you are sustainability. From your catering experiences that you're driving out, how you're capturing this water. So I really want to talk about the mechanics of developing something like that. Ken, here you are, our VP of operations. He's got to figure out how all this stuff is going to really work. And he's got to do it with understanding that he's got mechanics in other parts of the building underneath it. I'm always going to be concerned about leaks. So how do we take that into consideration when we thought about we're going to make this thing happen? The challenges.
Yeah, at the time when we were looking at challenges, we saw them a little bit differently. We saw challenges as opportunities. So we thought of them kind of out of the box and brought a different perspective to these things. We thought about more, how the installation of a farm would work, but also, by activating the roof in that manner, what does that create? So it employs staff, and you have working farmers there year-round, right? Not only in the agriculture side of things, right, in cultivating produce, but how do you bring that produce now to the nearby kitchen? So now our culinary staff can pick it up from there, and you can have our chef, our sous chef, a lot of our cooks, manage that produce, create menus, and align those menus with the crop season or whatever it might be, and then how do you bring that to clients and bring it from the table, from the farm to the table, and even things like flowers, growing flowers that can maybe decorate your tables for your event, for your banquet event, and so on. So there's so much that went into it. Then we said, you know what? We have bees, we have beehives, we have honey. Why don't we just take that to the table as well? And it just kept growing and evolving and growing. And now you have all these events that are interested in coming to the Javits Center to do many different things that the Javits Center could not do before. Many conferences, even weddings. So, you know, a lot of expertise comes into this, but, you know, it's not only, you know, picking the crops, but how do you wash the crops? How do you refrigerate if you need refrigeration at any given time? And hold it for a while it makes its way into the kitchen, and make sure that you're developing, basically creating the best product possible for our staff in the kitchens. So those are the type of operational things that we're thinking about, because the engineering aspects of building something, we thought that was very achievable, because we had a very robust infrastructure. Essentially, the farm is sitting over a very large truck marshaling building that below it, we move approximately 22,000 tractor trailers a year. And so above it, we now have a farm that we can essentially generate around from 20 to 30,000 pounds of produce a year as well. So I think that you know, we're very proud of what we did up there, and we're learning as we go along. It's not something that's written anywhere, so we're trying to create something from scratch. We have created something from scratch. I love the way that the community has embraced it, and you know, let's say overage produce that we have. Our staff cafeteria uses it for their meals at lunchtime. But whatever excess we have, we bring the community, and we donate a lot of that too. So I think it's been very beneficial in many ways.
Claire, talk to us a little bit about maybe some of the challenges as you stepped into it from an architectural perspective. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I would love to talk about kind of architecture in New York and Javits. So, you know, Javits is set in New York City, where its buildings and the architecture community also have played a big role in being ambitious about sustainability.
Yes.
Whether it's Times Square, whether it's, you know, you can think of all sorts of buildings. And this area, including Hudson Yards, has a lot of distinct buildings that kind of talk to being in the city and being in a very dense, active city with a lot of competing interests. So we also felt a real responsibility to provide something unique, that it wouldn't just blend in, that it would really feel when people walked out to it that they were on the Javits, you know, the steel farm. At the time, it wasn't yet the steel farm. And so this kind of idea of the distinct kind of Northlight dormers was really coming from industrial architecture, but the kind of lenticular truss allowed us to both create even higher space, but by tilting it, you know, towards the north, minimize the amount of light, because events in there actually have to be totally dark sometimes.
Yes.
Like, it has to be just like the rest of the ballrooms on Javits. So it was a real challenge. One of the, I think, exciting things was to see this giant, very fast door, and originally doors, go up, so that this is one of the first, I think, pavilion spaces that can get large crowds of people in and out of a pavilion exhibition space, and they can flow into the outside. And that outside is where we kind of try to make space for what would become the food forest. So again, the idea was to make something, and I hate to use the word iconic, but in a way memorable enough that Javits would be able to kind of sow this message and get the message out there that you can do roofs differently than people thought.
I love the word iconic. Iconic in Javits, remember that. I love that. I want Ben to talk about, we also have a greenhouse. So in addition to the farm, we have a greenhouse. I'd like to know the importance of having something like a greenhouse when you have a farm. Like, how does that play into having a 4-season space, right? It's important for us from a design perspective in food. How do we farm? How do we continue to farm in the winter months, right?
Right, yeah, and I remember going through lots of iterations about deciding exactly where to put the greenhouse in balance with the rest of the facility. The greenhouse is kind of the anchor of any small farm like that, especially in the Northeast in this climate, it's where we start all of our thousands and thousands of plants every season when we put them in as tiny little seedlings and grow them out on the trays. It's also where we need a little bit of an infrastructure for our washing and packing. So when we're harvesting all of these 20,000 pounds per year, and we have to prepare them and get them ready to go to the kitchen. So our washing and packing and our storage, our walk-in cooler is in there. And then also it allows for 4 seasons growing, as you mentioned. We grow lettuces and basil, different herbs, cucumbers, all through the winter that we can then deliver to the chefs and to Cultivated. It's a smaller percentage, of course, but important to just keep the lights on and keep things going. And then also we have some bits of hydroponic growing, which was also important in the design process, because we wanted to, although the vast majority of it is a green roof and kind of a little bit more emulating a traditional organic environment that could happen in or outside of the city, we also wanted to incorporate some technologies and acknowledge that in different parts of the world and different parts of even our country, we have very different constraints over what Mother Nature will allow at different times of the year. And to incorporate some hydroponics to set that example so people can take that with them too.
Well, this year it's been really fun. I know that we have a lot of apple trees and some pear trees. I understand this year we've been growing pear trees for what, 3 or 4 years now, and they finally fruited?
Yes, it's correct.
So even we're growing pear trees on the roof at Javits, where we can make amazing desserts.
And the apples fruited immediately, but the pears just had to settle in a little bit longer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Next, I want to direct this to all of you, but really thinking about how do you measure the success of projects like a steel farm? What does the measurement look like? How do we form in the middle of a concrete jungle this amazing farm? But then how do we measure the success of that? Ken?
Sure. I think that success at the farm and at the Javits Center, for that matter, is measured from different angles. It comes in different ways. It's very active success, and it's evolving over time. So when we look at success, we see the acceptance that the farm may have to the community, to our staff, to our visitors, how it impacts visitor experience and things like that, creating a sense of arrival. So when we're up there at level 4, it doesn't look like an empty space. It looks like something that's welcoming. It's welcoming to everyone that visits us. So that's why we arrange tours so people can actually experience that.
The educational component, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. The educational component is huge. We continue to do many studies around that too.
Yes.
So we have climate stations at the farm where we monitor many different things, from wind speeds to imposed shadows from other buildings to things like humidity levels and many other elements within those climate stations. But what we're seeing so far is that it's been very successful in many different fronts. Besides our primary mission of developing economic impact to New York State, New York City, the community, I think that if you set the economic impact aside, just developing a farm up there on the roof was the right thing to do. And it's become so popular, everyone likes it. So we're enjoying it, and I think there's a lot more to come. I think with you joining us and the light you bring to our operations, I think that in the future there will be many, many stories to tell. Next year, stay alert, because we have a lot of things to share of what's going to happen next.
What would you say our success is when you talk about measuring success on a project like this, Clara?
Well, it's very interesting that the Javits extension was for decades debated.
Yes.
And in a lot of ways, I would say one of its successes is even overhearing people say, oh, I just went to the farm at Javits, or I just went to the pavilion for an event. I had no idea.
Yes.
It's fabulous. And so as there's a lot changing in the context, there are way more people that are going to be living right beside Javits. And so even though you all didn't know, or you didn't think originally how close there would be new neighborhoods burgeoning up and how our ferries would become more popular, even so, this now Javits is actually starting to be a better neighbor because of it than it ever has been. And I think there's still ways to go. There's the streets, but when I hear about some of the kind of new sustainability initiatives, I keep thinking, what people see when they go up here is really just the tip of the iceberg. And you know, getting back to what Ben said about the tank, I mean, originally this roof was just gonna, as per code, hold water for the Javits on the roof. But the idea that actually it's now cleaning the water and filtering it and creating more oxygen through those trees and everything else, and that the tank is actually saving water is really such a fantastic story. And I think it's a story that once people in physical space interacted, it's even more impressive than looking at the charts.
Absolutely.
As great as the charts are.
I get excited every time I even think about the farm. I'm probably driving my team absolutely insane. So I want to hear a little bit from the farm, from our farmer. Brooklyn Grange is such an amazing partner of ours. We challenge you a lot, I know. We go out and we start talking to our customers and we're like, what do you want, right? Let us build something for you. Maybe we grow, we create a menu around what you want to do come the summer, right? So come an event that's coming in August or September, we could potentially be growing some amazing crops in order to take care of that client. Talk to me about some of those measurable successes that we've done.
Sure, and there's so many different variables growing many dozens of crops, 20,000 pounds across the course of a season, dealing with Mother Nature and everything. One thing that was a huge success and a great learning experience for us at this location, as we know, the vast majority of the food feeds into the catering operation. And over time, we've also, just this season, started a CSA program for the Javits employees, which we're very excited about. But August happens to coincide with the bell curve of the outdoor yield at the highest point. Whereas at the convention halls, August doesn't tend to be peak season. It's kind of when things slow down, vacations, things like that. And that was the first time we'd really hit that challenge, even with farming for 10 years, distributing through different outlets. So we really put our heads down and we looked at exactly how can we try to shift that peak of the bell curve to September.
Yes.
Move it over 1 month and still grow just as much food and have it, you know, all the same efficiencies with Mother Nature. And we were able to do that pretty effectively. That was a good challenge. You know, and then also some of the nuts and bolts of it, just to be retaining and detaining millions of gallons of stormwater each season on a roof that could otherwise just be a impermeable surface. And growing all that high quality, nutrient dense food organically and distributing. And then also just for the people to take it away and for people to see it and take their ideas all around the country and the world after visiting the Javits Center.
Well, what I would say as we begin to wrap this up is that what we have here at Javits is quite amazing. We could not have done it without the amazing insight and expertise of the people that are sitting on the stage today, from our farmer, to our architect, to our operator, to our sustainability team that we have here, and to our amazing culinary team that helps us to continue to be amazing every day. All I can think about is how I want to market this in a way that we talk about Javits like no other place. Javits Center here, we are an oasis of sustainability. We are growing, we are feeding, We are protecting. We have an amazing green roof of almost 7 acres where we are protecting the birds. What I love most importantly is that Steel Farm is more successful today than it has ever been and will continue to be that. But most importantly, it's an opportunity to inspire. So if you didn't walk away from here today, please walk away from Javits being inspired to know what you can do and what we will do in the future together. So thank you very much for this.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.